The City of Albuquerque Public Art Urban Enhancement Division and Department of Arts and Culture proudly present Take Another Look. Built on the foundation of two city ordinances, Art in Municipal Places, and the Urban Enhancement Trust Fund, the Public Art Urban Enhancement Division provides funds to artists to create art for the public, as well as arts organizations for arts and cultural programming. Join us as we discuss everything related to funding artists in the public realm with host Joni Palmer.
Hello, I'm Joni Palmer, and welcome back to Take Another Look at Albuquerque's public art. Today, I am back in Gallery 1 with three guests. We'll be talking about art-infused technology and the Internet of Things on the rail trail here in Albuquerque. This is the second of three episodes about public arts and technology. So the first one was in May. We talked with Sherry Brueggemann, the manager of the public art program, and Andrea Poli, who is an artist up in Santa Fe and a UNM faculty. We talked about Albuquerque's history with art and technology. In July, we'll be flipping the script. We'll be talking about using technology to analyze art and to engage the community. So Denicia Monet Malone, founder and principal from Rook, will be returning to the podcast. She joined us in the fall for episode 3 to tell us about the public art census, which was just then getting started. So in July, she will tell us about what they learned from their work in the field. And then Mandolin Sanchez, who's our public art outreach program coordinator, who has been behind the scenes until now, will talk about the public art program and how they're using technology to engage people. So I have three guests here today. So I'm going to start all the way over to my left with Mark Leech, is the director of the Department of Technology and Innovation at the City of Albuquerque. Between 2008 and 2016, Mark led the city's efforts in open data, transparency, and innovation. As a software developer, he has worked extensively in both the public and private sectors. He is leading the department in collaborations with local educational institutions and tech companies in support of smart city initiatives. He supports finding and fostering resources to ensure Albuquerque continues to be a leader in tech and stays competitive in future markets. So thanks for joining us.
Hi, glad to be here.
Brian Rashap, is it Rashap or
Rashap.
Rashap is the lead instructor for the Internet of Things, lowercase OT, and rapid prototyping immersive course at CNM, the community college here in Albuquerque. He spent nearly a quarter of a century at the Intel Corporation, where he was responsible for Intel's physical infrastructure and facilities in both the United States and Canada, including 3 large manufacturing sites. Throughout his Intel career, Brian drove the implementation of technology and IoT to improve building, manufacturing facilities, and building capabilities and performance. Prior to Intel, Brian received his BSc, MSc, and PhD in electrical engineering from the University of Michigan. He worked at the NASA Langley Research Center on control of large unmanned space structures, as well as autonomous space-based robotics. Brian has been involved in helping entrepreneurs start and grow their businesses here. So thanks for coming over.
You're welcome.
And then Celestino Crowhill is a sustainable designer and fabricator studying art and ecology. He is a new media sculptor who works as an exhibit fabricator. He's also a musician. As a 5th-generation New Mexican who is from Las Cruces, Celestino comes from a family who has been active in the community for those 5 generations in organizations such as Raza Unidad Party, Chicano Studies, anti-fracking legislation, Palestinian advocacy, and immigration jurisprudence. Since age 17, he has served his community through social justice, teaching, sobriety, public art, and practicing cultural traditions. So thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome.
All right, so now that you know a little bit about my guests, let me give you just brief context. So in our previous episode, I spoke with Sherry Brueggemann and Andrea Poli about the public art program's first art and technology laser light sculpture that was commissioned in 1986, as well as the ordinance changes that the City Council unanimously approved in 2022, which updated the definition of what can be considered public art. So it includes temporary and digital media art forms today. So Mark, I'll get started with you. Please tell us about the city's Department of Technology and Innovation. What is it? Where is it housed? Do we have peers in other cities?
Yes, great question. As we went through in the introduction, I'm the director for the Department of Technology and Innovation. So basically, that's your technology group. So if it's a computer, if it's a server, if it's IoT, if it's sensors, eventually that will cross our department, and we help make sure that it's secure. We make sure it gets purchased correctly, that it conforms to the city standards, and we make sure that it gets installed and deployed. So this can be anything from kind of like smart controls in a room, controlling temperature, through to multi-million-dollar projects for public safety, through to collaborations with CNM. So it's pretty well, it's the whole gamut. Wow. And so we do everything from deployment through to maintenance, through to looking ahead and anticipating technology.
Cool. And I'm assuming other cities of our peer cities have a similar.
That's right. In other cities, usually my role will be called the Chief Information Officer or CIO. Mm-hmm. So kind of like really Department Director for Technology and Innovation. It's a fancy way of saying CIO.
Okay. Well, I'll have to look into seeing what some other cities like Tucson and all of them are doing.
Absolutely.
So how did this partnership between your department, CNM, and the city's public art program, how did this come about?
It's another good question. So we've always envied CNM's ability to be kind of like agile and really kind of like think outside the box. And with Brian, we found an excellent collaborator who's kind of shared our vision. How do we move fast and try things out? Because that's one thing that government has a reputation for, is not really kind of like being a little risk averse. We won't always try new things. And with Brian, we're lucky enough and fortunate enough to have somebody who will share our vision and help us explore the art of the possible. Hmm. So we'd already been having a very successful collaboration with his IoT deep dive bootcamp. And he can go into more details about that. But the artist component of that was a brainstorming session after one of the cohorts. We did a debrief over at a coffee shop and kicked a few ideas around, and we'd seen a very interesting presentation from an artist who'd put together an infinity box, and kind of like just kicking that idea around. We all looked at each other and said, "Yes, IoT for artists." That could really work in Albuquerque.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to follow up a little bit on that story?
Yeah, it's if I go back a little bit farther, the collaboration really started with as Albuquerque looked to become a smart community and really be able to provide better services to the residents and all those things that technology can help us with. There was a realization that the workforce wasn't ready for a smart city. Mm. And so really our collaboration started that basic, is how do we come together, and how can CNM, whose mission is to change lives and build communities, so how can we take individuals like Celestino, maybe that don't have any technology background, get them into technology with this idea that we're going to need more and more of that in Albuquerque. Right. Private industry, government, all across the gamut. Our first project together was a pothole detector, something that just a little sensor that we put on a garbage truck, and as the garbage truck drive around the city every week, we map the bumps in the road. So that was the first brainchild, right? And then out of that, really, Mark and his team just watched the students coming out of our course, which led to this, hey, there's art starting to show up, and led to that brainstorming session. And it's just been, it's been really wonderful to partner with the city as a whole and really think about how can we bring a different type of student into technology, and then see what those students can do. And that's the beauty that's behind us right now.
Yeah, that's great. And it's those brainstorming sessions, right? Just sitting down and kicking things around.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
So, I'm going to dig a little bit further into these relationships. So what is it about your department, CNM, and then now let's add the rail trail? What is it about that makes this an interesting project for the city to be involved in?
This has been a great opportunity to try. Again, this is all about trying things out. Technology guys, they're not always good at kind of like putting together and anticipating what the public would like in terms of art. So being able to anticipate and say, hey, we've got this resource called Rail Trail. What if we were able to put some art along there that kind of like would reflect the way that Albuquerque is moving in technology? It's a smart city. There's a lot of talent. How can we make something that will be representative of all these facets? So really, again, yet another brainstorming session. And so many cups of coffee later, this is what's come out of it. And again, it's something that everybody can focus on. They understand rail trail, they understand technology. Well, let's put the two together and see how we can make some art from that. Great. And again, this is down to Mayor Keller's, kind of like vision for what rail trail will be, as something that really is technologically progressive, but also representative of the Albuquerque community.
Do you want to add anything to that?
I think that's great.
Okay. Yeah. Well, now I'm going to turn to you, Brian. And the first thing I want is for you to explain what the Internet of Things is.
Yeah, it's a terrible term. I'll just say that because no one knows what it means. So at least we're all equally in the same spot. Like, what is this thing? But simply put, it's a smart connected device, and you probably have some in your home. So you might have a camera doorbell. Or a
washing machine.
I have a washing machine whose technology reminds me, or the dryer reminds me that I've left the laundry in the dryer for 15 minutes for half an hour. Kind of bugs me to take stuff out. You might have a smart thermostat, and those technologies are starting to become more and more smart. Right, a doorbell these days can detect if someone's dropping a package off in your front yard. You might have a smart watch. You might have a smart ring. You might have like healthcare type stuff. So really, the Internet of Things encompasses these. Think of them as smart devices connected to the internet that make your life better.
Okay.
Maybe save you money. Maybe give you facets of things that you wouldn't have before.
What got you into this realm, this Internet of Things?
Yeah, as you said in the introduction. So when I was working, in my corporate life. I had some technology teams, and we were thinking about how to apply this type of technology to make manufacturing better. And I found that while I had engineers that were experts in their field, I didn't really have individuals that were expert at applying the latest technology to kind of the newest problems.
Okay.
And so we had to home grow them. And so about 5 years ago, when I transitioned into life after the corporate world, I was fortunate enough to have some conversations with CNM about the Internet of Things and the potential to really start to create a workforce for what we see, and
right.
all of us see, is over the next 10 years becoming more and more important. And doing it in a way that is really accessible to everyone. You don't have to have a 4-year degree or a 9-year degree or anything like that. How do you make it accessible to really anyone that wants to be in the field? And that's really been kind of the driving passion for this.
Okay.
And if I can quickly just build on what Brian's saying, the other important aspect of this is we're already seeing the beginning of the IoT movement. There's a lot more things in your home that are connected.
Right.
But even for me, over the past few years, that number's just ballooned. So there's going to be more and more IoT devices out there. There's going to be more and more things connected to the internet, which means there's going to be more and more opportunities for people to take those sensors and do great things with them. Yeah. So this really is a growth area.
Yeah, sounds like it. So you teach a class at CNM, and it's called the IoT Bootcamp. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
About what that is, yeah. So in addition to the degree programs at CNM, CNM also has a division called CNM Ingenuity, and it's you can think of it as like the research park entity of CNM, just like universities have research parks. And its mission is to be creative about how to educate people. Okay. So we have the traditional 2-year degrees that get people into the workforce or maybe get them prepared for a 4-year degree. We have these 1-year certificates. And then in Ingenuity, we've been thinking about how can you do things differently just to increase that portfolio and reach more New Mexicans. The deep dive boot camps, which have been around for about a decade now, started in the programming space like web design, are these 10 to 12 week immersive experiences. So I get students like Celestino for 10 weeks, 40 hours a week. So it's his
intensive.
Full-time job. Okay, 400 hours over 10 weeks. Okay. The starting point, and this is super important, because so many people don't get into technology because they they believe they can't do it.
Right.
I wasn't good at science. I wasn't good at math. I don't have this. The only two things you need to start in the IoT bootcamp is you need to know what a mouse is on your computer.
Yep.
And you need to be able to divide using a calculator.
Okay.
And if you can do that, then over 10 weeks, we can teach you enough to get technical jobs, entry-level technical jobs, as well as do this beautiful stuff to art.
Wow.
And so our students they learn programming, they learn electronics, they learn some math, all the way up to calculus without even really knowing it.
CAD.
They learn computer-aided design, 3D printing, 3D modeling, a whole gamut of things that allow them to rapidly prototype these smart devices.
Okay.
And again, 0 to really making their own products
Right.
in 10 weeks,
Right.
which is just fabulous.
Well, so there's 2 cohorts that have completed that boot camp.
That have had artists.
Okay.
So we've had 12 cohorts
Okay.
over the last 4
Yeah.
years.
So you can do 12.
So yeah, 12. It's amazing. We've had 12 cohorts, and you had 11 students in your cohort, I think.
As far as artists? Or
No, it's total students.
I think there's 11.
Yeah,
of
so
us.
there's roughly 8 to 16 students in each of the cohorts,
Okay.
and a year ago, or really a year and a half ago, when we had that coffee meeting, we envisioned this idea of having artists join the existing workforce cohort. So it's not a artist-only experience.
Okay.
It's
okay.
side by side. So Celestino and 5 other artists joined 5 students that had come to the program because they were looking for jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had 11 individuals, and the dynamic that you create with having that diversity of background, the diversity of interest and experience just benefited everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so Celestino was in the second cohort. We had a cohort that was in the fall. We had a cohort last spring. It had 4 artists and I think 7 other students.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just started to blend them in deliberately. Up until that time, the Infinity Box that Mark talked about, I had an artist that just took the class because he wanted to add technology to his art.
Right.
And that really was, and his name was Ivan, so we're like, if Ivan can do it, why don't we, not saying that Ivan could do it, but if Ivan found his way to the boot camp for a reason, maybe rather than rely on an artist having to stumble across it,
Right.
maybe we'll actively go invite artists to be part of this experience.
Okay.
And that's what led to the 10 artists over the last 2 cohorts.
So, what is the expectation that every student, no matter whether they're an artist or not, do they have to produce something?
They do. They have to, 10 weeks, so they get 8 weeks of learning, intensive learning. So you learn a concept, I teach a concept maybe for an hour, and then you apply it immediately.
Okay.
Teach, apply, a little teaching, a lot of applying. So it's very hands-on. It's the gambit. It's electronics, and it's programming, and it's math, and it's all those things. Teach, apply, teach, apply, teach, apply.
Okay.
Drinking from a fire hose. We call it a boot camp because it feels like that.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
It feels like that. We've had Marines in our class that said boot camp was easier than this boot camp, right? It's a mental boot camp. It really is a mental boot camp. The students are exhausted by the end of it, but that immersive experience really solidifies in their mind these concepts. And then in weeks 9 and 10, over 10 days, they get the opportunity to build a product that they're going to go pitch to an employer, to an investor, to Sherry and the public art stuff. 10 days from in your mind to something physical.
Oh, wow.
And not like science fair, but more literally like a product.
Yeah.
And that's the outcome.
Wow, that's exciting.
It's super exciting. And it's absolutely fascinating to see.
From
to see
day 1 to
day 1 to day 50. And every time we go through it, we're like, this has been the best cohort ever. The next one can't beat it. And then we're all of a sudden we're like, wow, that was even better, right? They've been they all stand on the shoulders of their predecessors, and they really build on they help each other, and they build on what other students have done before. They're unique. They're individual projects. Many of them, like in Celestino's case, are from their heart, and so you have this passion in it. But with this technology and with this, it's like a product. It's not a sciencey thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, Celestino, how did you learn about the boot camp? How did you get in there?
There was a call to artists on the, I believe it was the public arts email, which I highly suggest signing up for. And I applied, and I actually was not picked. Somebody dropped out and was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. And then, I was called. So it was, just one of those destiny things, I would call it. But so that's how I heard about it. I didn't know it had existed for so long. I probably would have sought it out and applied for it outside of this call for artists, but I'm glad I did it this way because I felt really taken care of by Albuquerque Public Arts and as far as like making sure I had a stipend, because it's definitely something that you can't, I wouldn't suggest working
Right, yeah. That
during your
sounds
schooling.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And so tell us about some of the highlights from it.
There's a lot.
Okay.
I was really thinking about that pretty hard when I was on my way over here, but I think Brian really pointed out that the benefits of having a classroom with two different really brain hemispheres, and that's science, you know, and having those together and using the same technology I had a lot of fun. Even though it was very intense, I really had a lot of fun in that class. There was a lot of joking and there was a lot of helping each other. Brian is I'm just going to talk about it a little bit. He's a very high level educator and he's sort of a guru. He will get that information in there somehow and he'll meet you at where you're at. There's not, science and technology tends to be ableist, I feel. And I don't feel that in Brian's class at all. I felt that he's very passionate and trying to find you where you're at. I had some prior experience. I also have a lot of friends who use technology, synthesizers, microcontrollers in their art, and so I was just thrilled to be a part of this class. And it's become extremely instrumental in where I want to take my practice. It's just that's one of the biggest highlights, if any. But it really is a great class. We say boot camp, it is. Be ready for it. But when you get out of there, it's just a wonderful feeling to accomplish something like that. And the way that the instruction is set up is really brilliant. And like again, I said, it's set up to where if you don't have a background in electrical engineering, or if you haven't done 3 years of computer development or programming, that shouldn't keep you from pursuing studies like this.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what did you produce in the class, since we're sitting here in the gallery?
In the new gallery, which is gorgeous. So I was commissioned by Albuquerque to create a sculpture for the rail trail. The rail trail is now in a design process, so I had to do research in what it was supposedly going to look like, because there's nothing physical yet.
Right.
That was great. I love a design challenge, and it was challenging. In short, I took a technology that is already out there, which is a rain sensor. It's something that is like very commercially bought, but the electrical engineering was really inspiring to me because it was a very simple concept that can be applied to water mitigation. So basically, it's just a open circuit. This guy, pause me if I'm doing. But an open circuit is basically negative and positive that is not touching, so it's an open circuit. And then when the rain falls on my circuit, it closes the circuit. And then that is more specifically called like an analog input or an analog data, right? A sensor.
Right.
NASA uses sensors. We all use sensors. So that's an analog input, and then you can translate that in your code to do something, or to track it, or to log it, or to compare it. And it's a very, very scientific way of thinking about art, but also about design, and using simple concepts that are there that other communities that need help with their water mitigation. We have lots of flooding, and the city too. Like, it's very inexpensive to do. You could make innate objects conductive if you use, let's say, conductive paint or graphite. It's a little more complicated when you're doing with water and water flow, as far as like water rainfall, which is like an input. So it's a resistivity in electrical circuit. So it's like, there's like this physical element to it. Water is not conductive on its own, which is like sort of my experiment with this. So in short, it's just a very pretty rain sensor.
So this is it in the middle?
Yeah, this is it. And the concrete slab is, I designed that in an Adobe Illustrator, but it's a specific shape that's meant to tessellate. So it's a tessellation. Okay. So it's just a shape that fits into itself infinitely, which is concepts that are used in math and physics and things like that. So my shape can tessellate vertically and horizontally, and that's mainly to sort of show people that this concept can be largely spanned on an area, or short, or a small area, and depending on what type of math you're using, what type of area you need to cover, and what type of data you need, that's how you can use this design.
Wow. So it's a great prototype.
It is. It's a great prototype, and it was a lot of fun. And I did have help from another artist, Zuevas Sevilla, helped me with my last-minute integration. Yeah.
Well, and you've alluded to this. How has this class changed your practice, the way that you practice as an artist?
Let's say instead of 360, 180, like I was interested in this. I took a class at UNM Arts Lab. I used to play around with radio frequencies and use sort of kits and stuff. I really enjoy like physical hardware, so like building things and making sure the circuit works, and basic stuff, but this has totally enabled me to take concepts and actually produce them. Not only that, but prototype is, rapid prototyping can be a concept that somebody could have and say, I could go in and help them produce this concept, whether it be like a safety seatbelt or rain sensor or anything else. Like, that is kind of like, he touched on that a little bit, but he has a small company and helps other companies do that and prototype their products.
Great. Well, so I understand that the cohort, the first cohort was part of the application process reviewing for the second cohort?
They were, yes.
Do you have a third cohort?
I hear we're going to have a third cohort. We can say it here, I think, that we're going to have a third cohort. I saw a nod from behind the cameras.
Okay, and are you excited about being a part of that?
I am, and I have been telling and just giving, like some small warnings that I've been telling a lot of people, and so your applicants should be wide range of people, and I'm excited to also share this technology, and I am doing that in honor of the class and the way that it was fun to hear this story and how it came about. Because sometimes in the art scene it tends to be cliques and exclusions, and that's not what I felt from this class or my fellow artists. went through the boot camp together,
Yeah,
so we're
right.
bonded in a way, and we still communicate. We still
Nice.
collaborate with each other. We still have other ideas we want to do with each other. I think a couple artists, Owen's Theremin out there, which is like incredible. They're going to be in another. Zuiva is actually, I think he's a creative director for. Oh gosh, what is this? Currents in Santa Fe.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it's that type of environment. So I want to encourage my friends to apply and go through. And I even offered to babysit and help and
Wow, that sounds necessary.
Sounds
help if the homework gets overwhelming, because it does.
Yeah. Any final thoughts from either of you?
Yeah, I think the key that I'm hearing certainly in this discussion is the idea about prototyping, that you seldom get things right out of the box. And certainly in this whole course, we're not looking for finished prototype or finished product that is going to change the world in one foul swoop. That's almost like a unicorn. What we are looking for is great ideas with people who are passionate about what they do, and kind of like just move the needle a little bit. So let's see if there's a germ of an idea, because there's different ways, certainly with some of the people that we've been working with, about taking that idea and making, taking the idea, working it through a little bit more. Somebody else takes it on, moves that needle a little bit, and then gradually, over a number of iterations, we go, yeah, this didn't work so well, this worked really well, right, let's take that bit. Yeah, this didn't work so well, that worked well, let's take that bit, and then really kind of like, in the end, getting to a good product.
Yeah, that's great. It's too bad you can't see everything here in the gallery, but we've had 10 students, and the 10 art pieces couldn't be more different. The diversity is just, it's amazing. And it's, I think it's an example of what we see from all the students that go through the class, is our socks are blown off constantly. And we're like, we didn't even think that was a problem. And you not only brought us a problem, but you brought us a solution. And it's really beautiful to see, I call them the kids, but our students have ranged in age from 18 to, we had an 81-year-old in our class, an artist, one of the artists, 81 years old. So the kids of all ages, they just do amazing things, and it's just so fabulous to be a part of it.
That's great. Well, thank you for joining me in the studio today.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's good fun. Thank you.
And so, dear listeners, I hope this episode has helped you understand a little bit about arts, technology, the Internet of Things, and some of the art that will be on Albuquerque's rail trail. If you want to learn more about what's going on with the rail trail, go to cabq.gov/MRA/rail-trail-1. If you want to follow what's happening at CNM Ingenuity, visit Deep Dive Coding, and each word is capitalized, .com/I lowercase o-t. You can learn more about the course, and you can sign up for the newsletter. You can follow them on Instagram and Facebook at Deep Dive Coding. Again, Deep Dive Coding are all capitalized. If you want to see Celestino's work, you can find him on Instagram at Celestino Crowhill. And that's all lowercase, one string. If you want to learn more about the city's Department of Innovation and Technology, visit cabq.gov/DTI. And you'll find all of this information in our newsletter. So you can go to our website, cabq.gov/publicart/podcast, and you can even sign up for that newsletter. Hope you can come down to the gallery and see it. It's open until the 7th of June. Definitely worth coming down at least once. And you can see that there's a wide variety of art here. So I hope you'll join us for our next episode about public arts and technology. It will be the third in this set. Episode 12 will be released on Wednesday, July 10th. Thank you for listening, and we hope that after you've listened to this podcast, that you will take another look at public art in Albuquerque. Thank you. All right. Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks a lot.
That was cool.
That's great.
Yeah, that was really good.
We pack a lot into 30
Thanks for
minutes.
listening. To learn more about the Albuquerque Public Art Program, the Public Art Collection, opportunities for artists, and so much more, visit cabq.gov/publicart. To learn more about the Urban Enhancement Trust Fund, visit cabq.gov/UETF. Tune in next time to take another look at the City of Albuquerque Public Art Urban Enhancement Division.